Hello everyone. Today I just want to make a short video on, not quite sure what to call it, but a certain sort of proxy authoritarianism, which is omnipresent really in the Western world at this moment. Which is basically the idea that if you are not one of the authorities, you cannot logically criticize the authorities. Because you don't have the authority to do so, because you aren't one of the authorities. So it's a kind of circular logic. We see it very clearly in science, in the sciences in general, and from science it enters into politics, where government policies are built upon scientific principles, and also historical events, which can't be criticized because you're not a historian. And you can't criticize science because you're not a scientist, and you can't criticize politics because you're not a politician, essentially. Or at least, if you could hypothetically criticize politics, you can't do so because you're not a historian or a scientist, and the politics is all based on history and science and fact, which is given to us by experts. And right away, there's a certain hypocrisy here, a paradox, because if you don't have the authority to criticize the authorities, then logically it follows that you don't have the authority to praise the authorities either. You know, if you're not in the know, then how could you justifiably praise the authorities? How could you verify any of the things they're saying? But now, apparently, ordinary people have the authority to praise the authorities, but they do not have the authority, the wherewithal to criticize them. Following on from this, we find that the orders and the commands, thus coming from this idea that only authorities can pass judgment on things, and non-authorities, that is the masses, the people, can't do it. We see there is changes in lexicon and syntax, as well as semantic changes in the orders and the commands and the assertions and sort of the statements, the facts, which are given to us by the authorities, which ultimately can't be criticized because ordinary people are simply not authorities anymore. It's almost like it's almost like a proxy sort of measure that's forbidding people from becoming an authority themselves on issues, doing their own research and whatnot. So to go to lexicon and syntax, or first of all, just to talk about how a historical example of this, because in feudal times, obviously, and I'll refer to Christian theology here and the Catholic Church and whatnot. In feudal times, the majority of people were illiterate peasants. They didn't know how to read a book, and yet they were told to believe in the Word of God and the Bible and what have you. Now, you can immediately ask yourself, how can they really believe in the Bible if they don't even know what's written in it? You know, the Mass was held in Latin, and most people didn't speak Latin. There was an idea of the priest being the shepherd and the ordinary people being the flock. And this is how modern politics is going to be, or at least how it is already now, to a large degree, and how it will be to an even larger degree. The politicians will be the priests, they will be the initiates, they will be the shepherds, and the ordinary people will be the illiterate peasants in this regard. They will not even be able to discuss things on the same terms as their overlords, because they do not come from the same sort of expertise, that line of expertise. Furthermore, garnering sort of an expertise in any certain field will essentially be impossible, because a critical person, a dissident, will never be hired by mainstream media. They will never be allowed to remain in university to get a PhD and whatnot. And even if they do get a PhD, as many people do, there is Dr. this and Dr. that who are critical of the government, their work will be banned, and they will be seen as a sued, or if not an outright sued, they will be seen as immoral, and their work will be banned, what have you. And so I give the example now of mathematics, because how can you possibly verify a mathematical statement? Because even if we say, for example, the authorities really are in the know and we aren't, and they really are experts and they really are telling us the truth, what value is there in truth, and is truth really a truth if it can't be criticised? And again, this comes to the verification of mathematical statements. There is not one mathematical statement, not one equation in existence which can really be held as true without being criticised, or at least in a case of an axiom that is used within the context of other equations to verify other equations. So, but really, if you can't criticise it, or if you can't use it in the context of criticising other things as a tool of criticism, which is what an axiom is, ultimately, as all equations are affirmed by critique, no truth is really true. You can't really verify anything. Just as much as you can't negate it, you can't verify it either. So, let's take a basic statement like 2 plus 2 is 4, the old example. Now, say counting was illegal, calculators were illegal, or at least you have to have a PhD to get a calculator or something like that. And like if you're like Graham Hancock or something, what Graham Hancock is to archaeology will be like, in my analogy here, a normal person using a calculator. It's like, who are you to do your own research? You're not one of the experts. They could change the lexicon and the syntax of the statements. That is, the order in which words and phrases and concepts combine together, and also, like in terms of that's syntax. And then in terms of lexicon, there is the actual concepts, phrases, words, so on and so forth, which are plugged into the overall assertion. They could basically change what they're telling you. Like they could say 2 plus 2 is 5, or 2 plus 2 is 4. It really doesn't matter if you can't criticize it, because you're basically just you're believing in something without knowing exactly what you're believing. They could likewise say 2 plus 2 is fried bacon. 2 plus 2 is a Volkswagen Golf. It doesn't matter what they say. If you can't criticize it, it can't be held as a fact. Furthermore, they could do semantical changes, and I'd bring us back to Christian theology, to the medieval peasant worldview. Because take, for example, the idea that the Virgin Mary is holy, which is an old historical idea. As old as Christianity, the Virgin Mary was always seen as holy. But when the Protestant Reformation came about, they basically said, yeah, okay, the Virgin Mary is holy, but what you don't know is that the word holy actually means something completely different to what you think it means. And so the Virgin Mary is no longer a divine figure to whom prayers are offered. You no longer ask her for salvation, you no longer ask her for mercy, you no longer ask her for forgiveness, you don't ask her for help with your issues. Like, yeah, she's the mother of Jesus Christ, she's part of the Bible, but, holy in this context doesn't actually mean what you think it means. This is the semantic argument of Protestantism. Now, of course, this is not to negate the theology. I'm not discussing theology here. Don't miss the point. I'm simply talking about how a semantic change in an argument can't be argued against if you don't have the authoritative wherewithal to do so. And restricting people's access to their ability to critique, their ability to criticize information, basically means they can't verify anything. And so what value is a fact? This is basically what I would call like a sort of a proxy authoritarianism. Yeah, it's a concept I could expand more, but yeah, I've given you enough now. I'm going to try and make more videos in the future. The political world right now is insane, really. And yeah, I've been reading a lot of philosophy in the meantime, and yeah, I've dozens of ideas I could discuss, but it's just about finding the time, really. But I'll make more videos in the future about topics similar to this, so see you next time.